Hello ladies and gentlemen, Top Hat Gaming Man here, taking a break from beat 'em ups today to take you on a journey looking at a rather rare piece of console history. In fact, this is information that is talked about so infrequently that I believe this is the first YouTube video ever to even cover the topic. Those of you who have been here for a while know that I am quite the aficionado when it comes to consoles. In fact, I would go as far to say as I am one of the best sources of information on the whole of the information superhighway for such content. I have made a cornucopia of breathtakingly superb videos about a whole manner of failed and cancelled consoles, not to mention one of my flagship series handhelds around the world. So, if you're new here and haven't seen all of my amazing educational content, I suggest that once you've finished watching this instalment, then why not go back and watch my back catalogue. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is the mad story of the Nintendo Gateway System, a lost piece of Nintendo history. Yeah! Previously on this channel, I covered a little gaming device known as the Sega Mega Jet, a system that was initially created for exclusive use on Japanese airlines. The Sega Mega Jet was the first ever handheld version of the Sega Mega Drive, and was basically a Sega Nomad without a screen. Whilst the Sega Mega Jet is well known, what many people may not know though is that Nintendo also dabbled in in-flight entertainment themselves, and I am not talking about the Game Boy here. In today's video we are going to talk about an innovative machine which brought Nintendo home console gaming and other entertainment to in-flight air passengers and people staying in swanky hotels. But before I go into any more detail about today's mystery device, I'd like to set the scene somewhat. The year is 1993. There was a lot going on in the world of gaming. Nintendo and Sega were in the heat of their war, and many other companies were releasing, or on the cusp of releasing, powerful hardware to try and take their throne. Meanwhile, Nintendo was still pushing innovations on the NES with their latest, much more sleek model, which allowed the cartridge to be inserted in the top rather than on the front of the machine. But the company were also taking part in endeavours incorporating their 16-bit ventures, such as the in-flight entertainment we are focusing on today. Over the last century, in-flight entertainment is something that was slowly beginning to gain momentum as flights began to improve and distances that could be flown increased. Flights regularly had films playing on board to keep passengers entertained, but apart from that, passengers had to remember to bring things on board themselves to pass time, like magazines or Nintendo's very own handheld gaming devices, like the Game Boy, which had changed how we gamed when it was first launched with Tetris back in 1989. So that Nintendo could introduce further fun to travelling consumers, this is where we meet a company called Hughes Avacom. Hughes Avacom specialised in in-flight entertainment, but prior to that, according to an article by the New York Times on the 8th of June 1994, they had previously been working on missiles and satellites. Relating this back to Nintendo, Vince Gangula, an engineer for Hughes Avacom, said, after the defence cutbacks, Hughes was in a good position to apply these advanced technologies toward developing interactive video systems for the airlines. The defence cutbacks mentioned happened at a time in which Hughes Avacom was acquired by a multinational aerospace corporation called Rockwell Collins. In a US patent lodged in 1992 by Rockwell, there is actually an application made for, and I quote, an entertainment and data management system for passengers' vehicles including individual seat interactive video terminals. Basically, it was going to be a touchscreen video system which you could watch films, peruse the onboard duty-free odds and sods, and purchase food and drink. It was designed to allow the consumer to have much more personal entertainment on their flight, rather than one movie shown to all passengers at the same time. There was even a swipe for credit cards to make payments. It was essentially the first kind of proper in-flight entertainment of its kind. However, this system lacked the X factor, as it were, and I believe this is why Nintendo became involved. This project would be called the Nintendo Gateway System. It was basically the exact same device, but would include a huge plethora of Super Nintendo games, including the likes of Donkey Kong Country, F-Zero, Final Fight and Mega Man X. Over the course of approximately 18 months, beginning in 1992, development began on the Gateway system. What needed to be achieved was a machine which was small enough that it would serve passengers on a plane, which obviously meant the space being offered was extremely limited for the number of bells and whistles they wanted to include. It was to be placed either on the headrest of the seat in front or above them on the bulkhead. A gentleman and huge video game collector known as the Video Game Kraken has kindly donated to me exclusive footage of the extremely rare piece of Nintendo Gateway hardware that he owns amongst his insane collection. According to the amazing site which I often go back to for interesting information about gaming's past, he wrote regarding the development of this hardware that the work started early in 1992 and lasted 18 months. The main challenge was to make a device small enough to fit in the very limited spaces available in the airplanes. The specs they were given were really restrictive. 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches by 0.5 inches. Nintendo knew the system would be expensive, and to entice airline companies to acquire the systems, they had to make it as attractive as possible. With this in mind, Nintendo added multiple features, such as pay-per-view movie, audio CD recording, and a phone. This plethora of features added to the complexity and would need to be greenlit by the FAA before being authorised to be deployed on any aircraft. The system was designed to accommodate up to 3 seats at the same time by combining 3 Super Nintendos on the same card. This was called the Triple Gateway system. These cards would either come in configurations of 2 or 3 Super NES by cards. For rows with 4 seats, 2 devices would be used. To limit the space even further, all games would be stored on a shared hard drive and downloaded by the Gateway system when requested. The game would be copied on the 2 MB of memory of the device. The system would be primarily ran by a master control computer, which I suppose would act as, a master computer, and would be the main part where the working memory for the available games and other servers would be run from. The patent explains their likely choice of machines for this would be an IBM 386 running an interactive Unix operating system. Kudos to anyone in my comment section who knows what the bloody hell that means. The programs that the passengers would use would essentially be downloaded to their terminal, which mainly consists of a display and a controller, but not too many actual computer gubbins. Clever, eh? Bearing in mind this is 1993, I think this is pretty amazing, and much more bespoke than the likes of the MegaJet hardware. Nintendo would also lodge patents with the European Patent Office for this too, using the same illustrations and more or less the same too long didn't read jargon as the US version. The Gateway system was a huge success, and as a result occupied approximately 40,000 airline seats. According to the US patent lodged in 1993 by Nintendo, it stated from the offset that their intention was that if they could make this fit into an aeroplane successfully, they would intend to install the machine within hotel rooms and ocean liners too. It even specifically states how it would utilise phone lines to be able to download games and other services. In terms of the hotel endeavour, a California-based firm called LodgeNet were involved. It seems this partnership was off the back of the fact they specialised in satellite movies. They seemed more than qualified though to be able to install the Gateway system in hotels. Video Game Kraken adds, for the hotel version things were a bit simpler. There were less constraints, and since clients in the hotels are not listening to the entertainment system all at the same time, there was no need to install a complete system in each room. Instead, a receiver would be installed in which the controller would plug in. The system would then connect to a set of servers located in the hotel that would hold a predefined number of Gateway cards. Speaking of the Gateway system in hotel rooms, this service was much more prevalent than the airline version, leading the platform to be installed in close to 1 million hotel rooms. What may come as even more of a surprise to some was that there was not just one generation of gateway systems out there, but in fact there was a Super Nintendo Entertainment System version, a Game Boy 1, a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64 and GameCube iterations of these devices. As shown multiple times throughout this video, the controller, or remote for the airline version of the gateway system, had a button setup similar to the Super Nintendo controller. It also doubled as a remote for the movies and music aspect of the system. Hotels had modified versions of the original console controllers though, which were produced by LodgeNet themselves. As you can see from all of these different controllers, they feature extra buttons than that of traditional Nintendo controllers in order to access extra services offered by the gateway systems. All in all, considering how obsessed YouTube is with Nintendo, particularly American YouTubers, I find it extremely odd that the gateway system lacks coverage so much on the platform, especially when you consider how prevalent these devices seem to have been at some points. I guess expensive hotel rooms and fancy flights are usually reserved for men of culture, something the rest of this platform seems to severely lack. So no surprises really that this story has taken so long to be looked at properly. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was the mad story of the Nintendo Gateway System, Nintendo's lost hardware. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have had any experiences using this device or know of any other oddities that get overlooked which you feel deserve some Big Daddy Top Hat attention. If you enjoyed this content, there is plenty more obscure hardware videos for you to go back and enjoy in my backlog. Finally, my channel is partially funded by the generous donations I receive via Patreon. Patrons can earn a credit and a shout out at the end of these videos. These people make working full time on YouTube just that little bit easier, so I'd like to thank you all very much for that. Huge shout outs go out to Carl Johnson, Sebastian Velez, Sponge Matt B, JD Robbins, Since Spacies, Andrew Bazansky, Asobi Kwang DX, Michael Baker, Tom Elliott, Computer Man, Antonio Rodriguez, Craig Jenkins, Daniel Daly, RetroReversing.com, House of the Ted, Dan Barlow Jr., Joel, and all of my other patrons. Yeah!